was like 5 a.m. and she was tired, so like I don't blame her. But yeah. All right. Anyway, so Attack on Titan lazy explained because like she was like, oh, well, you thought like you called it lazy and irresponsible, so you were critiquing it and calling it bad. So I wasn't doing that. So actually, not to call Sour out, but like I'm confident she's saying that because that's what Sour told her. So Sour said, based on our rewrite conversation, that rewrites are just a step above critique, which is just not true. That's the opposite of helpful for what we were trying to get at. In fact, I should probably just pull up the exact quote so that I don't misquote it. But
a step above critique? Not necessarily.
yeah, like Cam
like
said,
it can be, but it depends on like the point of the rewrite. Like there's a rewrite in the sense of, for example, the Zabuzov rewrite we're talking about wasn't because we were saying anything was wrong and this is better. It was just an interesting idea. It's like a what if was really what that was. Like versus a rewrite of saying like, oh yeah, I think this should have been changed and this would be better. Like I guess that's a critique where you're offering a solution essentially.
So this is actually what spawned the like 6-page script worth of like talking about the rewrite that I talked about, which we could get into now. I think now would be the good time to get into that actually.
I guess it is. It's an intro. It's our initial thoughts on the finale. Okay. There you go.
So, so I got the quote, by the way.
Should you just share your screen so we can read and listen?
Well, I don't want to like dox things other than this quote. So,
okay.
Plus, I'm gonna share my screen in just a minute to show the thing. But so the quote is Cam says, "Yeah, Sour said rewrites are like a step up from critiques, so that's kind of helpful. But it's just not the way my brain works. With critiques, I have to see it in my head, compare it to the existing story to come to a conclusion. Rewrites are too abstract to me, and if I can't compare it to the existing story, then I can't process it."
Wait, hold on. Okay. But here's the thing. How can you not compare the one when I made the comparison? Like, I gave you. What do you mean you can't compare? I told you what happened. He transferred his consciousness. I said, okay, imagine he makes armor instead. Like, what do you mean you can't compare? Do you not know what happened?
Well, she also clarifies here. She says, like the live action One Piece was easy because I can compare it to the original content. There's existing information. I have to see it, touch it, you know? That's the other quote.
Yeah, but I don't get. What do you mean? But a rewrite, you can compare it. Just the original story. There you go. There's the thing you're comparing it to.
I will say, I can't believe she didn't understand what I was saying when I said that you shared the same sentiment with her, or that she shared your sentiment in this regard. Because like she doesn't want just the idea; she wants like to see how I would go about it, like the production value or whatever.
Yeah, she says she just wanted the punctuation. I'm like, no, I think she wants the complete idea too.
Yeah. Well, as funny as the punctuation is, and as true as it is, it's funny because it's true. She, I think, also does want to actually see how it's going to turn out, which is why, for both of you, I want to make that that rewrite, the Attack on Titan rewrite, in an actual way. I guess.
I think that's
like,
cool. I'm not like demanding you make an actual episode out of it. I was just saying, like, I just want to see like your actual script. But if you're making it into an episode, that's extra cool.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, so here's in response to that, here's the 6 pages worth of things that I said in response to what Cam said, without realizing that she wasn't saying much in response back to me. So this is almost 6 pages unedited, of just directly as it is, almost a one-sided conversation on my end. So that, again, that said, I did edit it to the fact that I took out whatever things Cam said in between of saying that's not how my brain works. So, but other than that, this is all
over and over again.
Thought. Yeah. I also took out random things that I said like that were disconnected from this general idea. So, but this is like the idea. Okay. Should we just go one page at a time to where like we each take a page of saying it?
Sure.
I don't want to say 6 pages in a row. All right. So with the rewrite, you can see it in the same way that you can see a critique, and you can compare it to the original in the same way as well. Maybe I can't understand because of the different way our brain processes info. Just because on what you said, I don't understand that. Unless you're saying that you get to see critiques in the same way as a series. But what critiques are you watching? XD. I will also do this so it's easier to see. And maybe what Sour said helped you be less confused about it, but I think that explanation is the opposite of helpful, because we aren't rewriting it because we think it's bad. It's not a step up from a critique because we aren't critiquing it. It goes without saying that I love these stories as an objective perfect 10 out of 10, so I'm not rewriting anything because it's bad. If anything, I can only do so out of passion because the series inspired me to have these ideas to rewrite it in the first place. I definitely would not describe it as a step up from a critique. Before I move on, what do you think about that?
To me, at least,
yeah.
Like I said, I kind of say there's two different types of rewrites. There's the rewrite that's more like a what if, like just an interesting spin-off kind of deal, and then there's like the rewrite as in like this is how I would fix, quote unquote, fix the story. Even that, though, to me, it's not necessarily a step up from a critique. It's just the solution to your critique. Like, if you say, oh, Naruto and Hinata's relationship is bad. Okay, there's your critique, and maybe you specify some certain things that are bad, but like, what's your solution? Like, that's your rewrite. You add in your solution. So it's not really a step up. It's just like what a critique should be, honestly. Like, instead of just saying it's bad, give like a solution.
But even then, I don't think the word solution is even the best word, because solution implies there's a problem, whereas some rewrites, it can be
Yeah, that's why I said there's two different types of rewrites. That's why I said like two different types of rewrites.
Okay.
There's the rewrite in the quote unquote fix the problem type, which would relate to a critique.
Yeah.
And then there's the rewrite that's more like a what if, where it's just like an interesting idea. Like,
yeah, so obviously, like, our Zabuza rewrite, we both love Zabuza. No critiques there. All of our rewrite had zero problems about the original story. But we added things in the same way that I added things into the Cycle of Hatred speech. I like that Cycle of Hatred speech. I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with it at all. But I'm elevating it.
Yeah, so I guess that's like a third. That's like a third type of rewrite. I guess you could say, which is just additive. It just it's not even really a rewrite. It's more just like, what if this was added in?
Exactly. Yeah. I would say I agree. I think a what if is completely different from a rewrite entirely. So what Naruto Explained does is not a rewrite in any sense of the word. That's not to say that what ifs don't have values. I think they have a different value. I'm not going to say the value is more or less. I just think, because I think what ifs are also valuable. But what ifs essentially take the plot or the world as is and look at the actions or events.
Yeah, it's just like, if this had happened, like, how would the characters respond and so on? Like, that's a what if.
Exactly.
A rewrite, technically speaking, a rewrite, just adding something probably isn't really exactly a rewrite in a sense. Like, a rewrite kind of implies you redo something that happened. I mean, you could say, yeah, I redid it by keeping it the same and adding something, but it's not really much of a rewrite. It's more like an add-in. It's almost filler, you could say. Like, this episode thing is just filler.
Yeah, absolutely.
But but I guess it would count. But
also, there's a video game where essentially that rewrite of Zabuza happens, like, almost verbatim. But like, we'll get into that another time when Naruto Explains comes.
Yeah, you mentioned that. I was like, I never watched it, but
cool. I was
so like, Kimimaro saves him in the game.
Well, actually, what happens is no one saves anyone. Orochimaru just Edo Tenseis Zabuza and Haku.
Interesting. Like, early on.
It's I think it's before the Search for Tsunade arc, but after the No. Hiruzen's alive. No. He actually, this is interesting. Orochimaru, Edo Tensei's Zabuza, Haku, and Hiruzen. And Tsunade and Kakashi have to fight Hiruzen, while Haku fights Sakura and Sasuke, and Zabuza, I forget who he fights. Probably
Naruto?
No, actually, because this is a freaking crazy story, dude. I actually love this. I wish we got this in the anime. Kabuto puts Naruto under a genjutsu to where Naruto has to fight Naruto inside his own mind. But like it's an anti-Naruto, and it's a really cool form of Naruto. Like it's an
So it's the waterfall of truth.
it's like a cooler waterfall of truth, though.
Really cool. That's a cool genjutsu idea. Or it's actually kind of like Nagato's little trap there in the Kasakage rescue arc, but it's a Kabuto genjutsu. That's a cool genjutsu, though.
It was really similar to how Naruto helped Sakura against Ino in the tuning exam. To where, in this case, I think it was Sakura or Tsunade. It's like, Naruto, if you can hear me, you just have to beat your inner self. And then they like go to fight whoever. Well, Naruto fights himself while he's passed out on the ground or something. Or maybe he wasn't passed out. Maybe he was mind controlled to fight other people as well. I don't remember. It's just such a
but
anyway. Also, Neji fights Kabuto in this, and then Kabuto threatens to steal the Byakugan in front of Tsunade as the threat to stop Tsunade from going after Kabuto. It was so cool! Oh my god.
And then we're gonna react to this.
Yeah, so Naruto shows up, by the way, after defeating the inner Naruto. He shows up to fight Kabuto, but obviously considering Kabuto's like so much stronger than Naruto, especially at this point in the story, the writers acknowledge that. Like, they don't have Naruto fight Kabuto. Kabuto speed blitzes Naruto, but Kakashi steps in right at the last minute, grabs Kabuto's hand before he grabs Naruto, and then Kakashi and Kabuto start fighting. It's so cool. Oh, by the way, this is all on top of like the Hokage rooftop where Hiruzen was fighting against Orochimaru.
Yeah, the funny thing about this is like now we also get the Kakashi versus Kabuto fight that everyone wanted.
Oh my god, it's so cool. We get that. This is like, I think it's so thematically relevant for this portion of the story as well. We just saw Hiruzen die, and Orochimaru is the one that killed him. Orochimaru is the primary antagonist at this point of the story. He comes back with Edo Tensei, with Kabuto, with Tsunade. This is like when her resolve is wavering, or when she just became Hokage or something. I don't know. Oh my god. To have all of this in the story, as well as Zabuza and Haku, before we go into the final arc, there's no better place for this arc, and there's no better arc for this place if you were to add an arc. Like, this should have just been canon. At least
so were they just fighting in, like, the Leaf Village?
Yeah, they were. It was, again...
So Orochimaru just came back?
Yeah,
he did it again.
Mm-hmm.
But wait, how did he use Edo Tensei on Hiruzen if Hiruzen already sealed away his arms?
I think Kabuto helped him in the same way Kabuto helped him, like, do the summoning jutsu. They also come back for, like, a unique reason as well. It was, I think, similar to Tsunade Heal My Arms, but it was for something else as well. I forget the exact reason. It is really cool. It's, like, a legitimate reason, but I thought it was really interesting. Like, compelling.
We gotta watch this.
So back to the rewrite words. I was gonna say something, or maybe I already said it, because I was gonna say the what if thing. Oh yeah, so like, the difference between a rewrite and a what if as well is a rewrite is intentionally something that you want to happen. It's going out of your way to write it in the way that you think the story should go. Whereas a what if, again, it doesn't matter what you want. It's taking the most logical approach to like least assumptions, be like, this is what's most likely, and because of that, like every other video where Naruto explained as a what if, like Kaguya wins in the end. But like, I don't think Naruto explained as saying he wants Kaguya to win. It just what would happen in this what if.
Yeah,
that's the difference right there as well. And the what if, it's also inspired based off on the story that we got. So you can only do a what if after the story concludes, in my opinion. You could theoretically do a what if up.
You could do it without, but it would make the most sense if it was concluded.
Yeah, because you just don't have all the information about events that happened earlier. So, like, you could theoretically, like, Attack on Titan Season 1, you could be like, well, what if EREN actually died there? But then you can't actually do that because then you don't know that the Santa Claus Titan would have turned into normal. So, like,
Yeah.
you would just do a fake what if. Again, just based on, like, that point of what you have knowledge of the story, but it's not an
Yeah,
actual what if, 'cause that
you
can't
just do a
happen.
whatever that's just completely wrong.
Exactly. Okay. Okay. Continuing on with these rewrite words, in the same way that I was expressing that I don't need to rewrite future arcs as long as I acknowledge that they would need rewriting, I also believe that I don't need to write the nitty-gritty details as long as I acknowledge that they would need to be decided upon in the first place, or in the rewrite. Rather, for rewrites, I think what is much more important and fascinating is working with the larger concepts, like they are building blocks that I can plug into the story. It is essentially dismantling the story into a puzzle and crafting similar pieces that fit that puzzle better than the current pieces, and then reforming and reshaping the puzzle back to its original integrity with the new pieces surgically placed in. Fix that word there. There we go. I don't need to worry about fine detail on the puzzle pieces. I just need to focus on forming the shape so that the loose idea can be the thing that fits. This is a really interesting analogy. Do you get this analogy?
I get what you're saying. Is there's a little bit of a disagreement though for me, where
I
it's
know.
like if you're gonna propose it to someone else, it's gonna be hard for you to get someone else to like. So you can say, okay, I acknowledge I need to work out these fine details. I need to change this later arc for this to make sense, and they're just gonna be like, okay, but like kind of hard to judge it without seeing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I feel
So
like that's a normal response to that. So like, they're gonna want to see the rest of it, and you're just gonna be like, guys, well, I don't need to, I don't want to, and they're gonna be like, well,
God. Yeah.
that's silly thing. Like, you're not wrong, but like nobody's gonna be satisfied with that, except for maybe you.
That's fair. Yeah. Let me do like this. Okay. Okay, so let's assume this is a puzzle with a piece that I don't like in the middle of it because that, well, just obviously there's a piece there that I don't like. What I would do is I would take a piece of the puzzle away, and then I would sort of change it, however, to make it work. So just there, it works now. Then I put it back in. Oh god, there with this. I put it back in. All right, now it works. It looks like the same thing, but let's just pretend it isn't the same thing. And here's the difference though. This new puzzle piece that I added here, I wouldn't need to color it. All I would do is focus on the shape of it. Because once I have the shape, I don't need to fill in the nitty details of the gritty of the middle. But you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, well, your point is that you don't need to, you just should.
Here, let me. Okay, US map puzzle. So let's assume this is a pretty close representation of the United States, but not exactly. What I would do is I would take this, I would like dismantle it, and then I would put a piece of the shape in. I would shape the piece that I think puts in better to where it's a more accurate fit of the United States. But I wouldn't write. There's a better example. But I wouldn't write the details on it. So, like, okay. Eagle puzzle. This is a better example. This is kind of what I had in my mind. Something like this. Okay. So I wouldn't worry about the eagle. I would worry about the puzzle pieces. Does that make sense? So
Sure.
like, if, okay, I'll give you an example. So let's say, how can I edit, no, edit. I'm messing it all up, Kamui. Yeah. Oh god, where did I even save it to? The desktop. Okay, give me just a second. Let's go get it really quick. Okay. The way I see it. Hey, what's up, Dari Chicago? Where is it here? Bald Eagle?
Dara Shikage, let us know if you're following Oodie's puzzle analogy.
Okay, let's just assume. I don't know how to do this. Because the puzzle's already complete. The puzzle's already complete. I would need like a puzzle that isn't complete and then a puzzle that is complete. But then the puzzle that isn't complete would be the complete puzzle, but the complete puzzle couldn't be a actually complete puzzle because it would have to be like missing a piece.
You just need like each individual piece of the separate.
I do. I really do. I really do. Okay. So here's what I would do. Let's just say this puzzle piece is like out of here, and this is the original story. This is how I see the story. Okay, I know how to do it. What I can do is I can do it like this. Copy, paste.
Just put some like white over that piece.
Oh. No, actually,
so that it's like not colored.
What I can do, I just need to make this part green. That's the same color, apparently. All right, there you go. This piece doesn't fit. It's green. It looks similar to the rest of it, but it doesn't fit. So it does this. It closes the gaps. There's no gaps. It just bleh. Okay, so it's like a square trying to fit into a circle. What I do is I only let me do it like this. I only focus on the shape of the puzzle to make the puzzle shape fit rather than the inside detail. I don't care about the color.
You only give it the little edges.
This looks so dumb, but if this is how it naturally is normally, this is what I do. And I think that's just better. It's a rewrite.
Well, no, I disagree with that.
No, this is all that I need to do, in my opinion. I get into that in the explanation of why. But yeah.
Well, it's only what you need to do to meet your satisfaction.
This will meet everyone's satisfaction, though. So let's explain why.
No, it won't, as you can blatantly see based off everyone else's reactions to it.
Everyone else's wrong reaction. All right, so let's explain why. In fact, with this being the way my brain works, I think it's better to include ideas rather than details. Because not only is less is more with this approach, but it also doesn't give anyone the chance to get bogged down in the details or strung up on a specific unimportant side tangent. It's about seeing the forest through the trees, so I don't want to give anyone a chance to see the trees when the focus should be on the forest. So here...
I get what you're saying,
yeah.
But like, if I'm gonna make a rewrite, I'm just gonna make the trees accurate too. So there's no need to get bogged down to the details because the details will just be good.
I know what you're saying, but here's the thing with that, is that if you can have the idea, but if this is your execution to where it fits, but it's not the same color, this doesn't look right, then people aren't going to like it. Even if the idea itself is solid, the shape is there, but the execution falls flat, or at least we disagree. For example, on the pain rewrite, like, I don't want to say or give Naruto a specific script because I don't want you to look at one specific sentence that Naruto says and be like, I think Naruto wouldn't say that specifically like that. It's not about how Naruto says it.
I get that, but the point of me saying that at that point in that example is to help you. It's to say that, like, if I'm picking out that in that alone, that means that, hey, you have a good idea, but I would tweak this line so that it's better. If I'm saying that in addition to like 50 other things, well then We got a list of 50 things to work on. Like,
So actually, I completely agree, and I explain why in the 6 pages. um, so not only that, but also the fact that if I purposefully leave the details vague, here's where you're gonna like this. While still getting the general idea across, it allows other people to add their own unique, individual, different interpretations, which nobody would agree on when you get down to the specific convoluted details. In this way, I can present a rewrite that everyone can theoretically agree upon because it allows them to fill in the blanks that I purposely left open for them to fill in themselves. So, for example, we all
I get what you're
agree
saying.
that this piece should probably be green. The original piece was green. So, but which shade of green? You might think it should be this shade of green, whereas I think it should be that shade of green. But that's not what's important. What's important is the shape of the puzzle piece. As long as it fits, that's what matters. That's the rewrite that I'm focused on. I don't want to argue over the semantics of which shade of green it is. We both understand, in general, that the point is that it's going to be green. So you can just leave it as a blank white piece with no detail filled in, because you know detail would be filled in. That's not the point of the rewrite. The point of the rewrite is for the idea itself, for the shape.
So, again, I get what you're saying, but again, this is when I come back and I say it's really an incomplete rewrite. Your purpose isn't to complete it. That's fine.
Yes.
You're saying that. It is an incomplete rewrite if you don't get the shade of green to the right shade of green. Otherwise, it's really like, here, I started a rewrite. You guys finish it yourself. Like, it's not your rewrite anymore. And now it's our rewrite.
But hang on, because I was also talking about Cam about a similar idea to this earlier tonight in regards to like YouTube and like what is art. So, in my opinion, if you give the same video script, Kamui, if you did this to 2 different editors, you're going to get 2 different videos. Why? The core was there. The building block was there. The shape was there. But the color, the part that they are allowed to express their own individual, unique creativity, that's the part that's different. That's the part where they quote unquote disagreed on, and everyone has their own art style. Nobody's going to agree because that's the subjective part. Whereas the objective shape of the puzzle piece is it's inarguable in this case. It's measuring quality rather than something that's like it's what you like. It's like what's good rather than something you like. So you can add the detail to your preference, but that's not going to be everyone else's preference. That's why I don't want to give my own preference, because I'm not Kishimoto. And so I would add my preference rather than Kishimoto's preference, even if the idea would be similar to what Kishimoto's idea would be. The point is to give the idea to Kishimoto so that Kishimoto can fill it in the proper shade. Kishimoto would be the one... Oh god, I did so many... Kishimoto would be the one to make it look like exactly like this, because it'd be exactly like the rest of the story. We could never replicate this detail exactly, even if we can get the shape correct. But Kishimoto wouldn't have the correct shape. He would have the correct details, but he wouldn't have the shape itself. So all we're doing is fixing the shape. Because Kishimoto, again, he would have the details, but he wouldn't have the shape. Kishimoto would have this part.
I mean, I totally get what you're saying. I think that you need so with some of your rewrites that you've given us examples, completely get what you're saying. For example, when you mentioned like what's a good example? All right, the point is maybe you get to the point where I think you need to go a little bit more specific than you have in some cases. Like, you leave it so vague that it's like, okay, I don't really know what you're going for. But you don't need to have, you don't necessarily need to have a step-by-step, word-for-word script of every single line in your rewrite. No. You can kind of just say, like, a little bit general and be like, Kishimoto can pick the words and so on. But some stuff I'm like, all right, I think you can go one step deeper. Like,
Also, I think I do actually go one step deeper, and that's the parts that you kind of like. Like, for example, whenever I give multiple interpretations of how this idea goes down, I don't just say put Naruto in the Hanzo situation. I say either Sakura or Neji could show up. That's two different possibilities. And based on people's preference, they may like
No,
one
but when
over
you
the
just
other.
say Naruto's gonna save a hostage situation in the tree there, and it's like, okay, well, let's set this up and like work this out. And you're like, I don't know. It's like, okay, well,
But
like you can
again,
go another step beyond where that
I
is.
don't think you need to because it's the purpose of having that scene in the first place. Why should you have this Hanzo
Yes,
situation?
and I get what you're saying. However, because like the point is though, you should get a little like you should at least pick out the people and why they're there because otherwise it is going to feel random because it's like who the hell would be there and why because the purpose was for Naruto to go alone. So if somebody else is going to be there, you're going to need to add in some detail for why they're even there to begin with.
I mean, it's
So
not hard to
it's
imagine
different from
someone
the
being there.
Sakura Hinata one. Hinata already goes down there. In this case, it's just a simple matter of Sakura goes to help too. It's pretty straightforward. There's
But
nothing
again,
crazy about
in
that.
that case, you're riding yourself into a corner because someone's preference might not be Sakura. They might have liked the idea if it wasn't Sakura. They might have liked it if it was Shikadai. But
Well,
if you
in that
say
case, you
that,
just
then the people
propose
that
two options. You just
prefer
propose two
Sakura.
options.
But in that case,
The
I would
point
have
is,
to
though,
prefer every option, which means I would have to prefer.
no,
I'd
you
have
don't
to
have to do that. You don't have to pick. You're the one
to achieve
rewriting.
the same
Pick the
thing. I
one
would
you
have
like
to.
best. It's your rewrite. If you have a couple ideas, Neji or Sakura, propose how they both get there, um, in some level of detail. You don't need to propose freaking Ebisu going there because chances are nobody's gonna prefer Ebisu is the one. Like you already know it's gonna be two people that Naruto's actually gonna struggle to choose between. So it's like
Yeah. Well, but keep in mind, I'm not necessarily writing this rewrite for me because I'm sharing it. So in that case, the same way you could
but
argue
if that's the
Kishimoto's writing it for other people, so he wants to. What's the point of writing it for other people? To please as many people as possible. So the best way to do that is to allow as many people as possible to be
I
pleased
disagree.
through the
See, that's where I
process.
disagree. If the purpose isn't for you now and it is for the people you're sharing it to, I think a lot of people you're sharing it to are going to want the gaps that have not been filled. They're not going to want when they're listening to your rewrite, they're probably going to want to be like, okay, but like what would you do? Like they want to hear your rewrite. They don't want to hear my rewrite analysis expansion of your rewrite. They want to see your rewrite.
But
I think the
exactly.
best thing to do is propose, I mean, your two best options or whatever.
But here's where we get into it because they want to see the gaps filled in. I put in the puzzle piece so that they themselves are able to easily fill in the gaps. I already did the hard part. I gave them the idea. Now they just have to put the idea how they like
See,
it
but then
themselves.
again though, let's go to the third hostage situation in the tree. I don't think you put enough there for anyone to have a clue on who they want there and why they're there and why they should be there. Just saying, oh, we're going to put them in that hostage situation, I don't think there was enough for the average reader to be like, oh, yeah, I really want Shikaku and Inoichi to be there. They're going to be like, because they're not there for a reason. Why are they even there all of a sudden? Who else is going to be there? Like, you got to give them something to make them want them there and make this matter.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're not
Well,
going to like that
to be
portion.
fair, you and Cam were sorta down my throat. If you guys weren't, I feel like I'd be able to better explain the purpose of that scene in the first place. Why I would have someone there. Why I'm writing that in the story.
Yeah,
But I feel like I
but
still
you
did
don't
that
have
anyway.
it there. But you don't have it in there. And you gotta convince me. You gotta make me want them
I feel
there.
like I did.
For me to finish, if you want me to finish the puzzle, you gotta make me want to finish the puzzle. And if there's not enough detail to make me want to, because it just seems out there and weird, or out of place, nobody will finish the puzzle. If the puzzle looks like it's, like, I don't know what this is, maybe it's poop, maybe they don't want to finish it. But if they think that there's an actual eagle, a beautiful design to get to, then they will. But you got to make them. Essentially, my point is, you're gonna make them tell it's an eagle and they'll finish the eagle, versus make them think, I don't know what this is. Is this a pile of poop? I don't want to look at that. Does that make sense?
Okay,
You
again,
gotta give
I
them
feel like
enough.
you guys were just against it from the start, because everything you're saying, I feel like I did. Because I agree with everything
I
you're
don't
saying
think,
as well.
but I don't think you did enough, especially in reference to the third one. I think you did enough in reference to the first two, and I just personally asked you, like, I would like to see, in reference to the first one specifically, with
Yeah.
the Cycle of Hatred speech one. I'm saying I would like to see your script on that, because for me personally, I can't tell you whether or not I like it until I see the finished product for that one. For your second one, hypothetically Sakura and Hinata, there's enough for me to say, okay, like, it's not too complex. There's no details to get bogged. It's just a pretty simple situation. We're just gonna add Sakura or Neji or whoever, and there's enough there that I can say, okay, this could or couldn't work. For the third one, I'm like, you gotta convince me to even like this one. You gotta give me more. Like,
It could
if
just be
it
that you
makes
just don't
sense.
like it, the shape of that piece.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
But if you can't convince me, you're gonna have to add the whole scene and make me convinced.
Yeah.
But if you don't do that, there's no way you'll. Ow, I'm falling. You don't do that, you won't convince me. Ow, that hurt.
God, are you okay? What do you mean you're falling?
Yeah, do you ever just like sometimes I just feel like I barely start falling.
Not ow, I fell. Ow, I'm falling. So you were falling for a minimum of like 3 seconds. You must have fallen like 20 feet. What happened? You fall off the roof of your house or something?
No, my God, you'd think I'm like drunk or something, but no, I was just like slowly falling and like saving myself, but not really saving myself. It doesn't make sense. I've done this before, though. Absolutely have.
Oh my God. Yeah, I know. I have an idea of what you're talking about. Okay. Well, okay, back to this though. I will say, I think, again, let me explain, because I think I did this. Because regardless of what you were doing at first, at some point in time with all 3 of these, you have got past the why. You're not like, why is this even happening? Because you yourself have started filling in the gaps, because it's fun. It's like, it's something natural. Like, I put the puzzle piece in, so like, you came up with your own ideas as well, ideas that I didn't even think of myself, which is also another reason why I don't want to put in the ideas, because it's essentially refusing allowing other people to give ideas in the first place. But like, you have given ideas for all 3.
I disagree with that because, for example, you came up with ideas based off of Kishimoto's, where he didn't leave the gaps for you to fill in on the scene. He just wrote a scene and then you came up with something. In this case, you would just propose something and then I would be like, oh, this is what I would rewrite your rewrite, essentially.
But again, Kishimoto didn't start with the final draft, and Kishimoto has to write the final draft. He can't just release ideas. Whereas the editors, the ones that we approached the rewrite situation from, as we discussed last time, shout out the playlist.
Yes,
go check
I
out
get
the
what you're
playlist of the previous video plays if you want to hear the explanation or conversation on that. But yeah, so I feel like approaching from the editor's standpoint, this is the best way to do it, so that Kishimoto can add his own flair, because we aren't doing the final draft. We're giving the idea to Kishimoto, so Kishimoto can add his own creativity, his own art style, because he's the one that does the detail. We just put the puzzle piece in.
I mean, there's 2 things on that. One is that you're not sending it to Kishimoto, so like,
no,
this won't happen. And 2 is that there's 2 different like types of like editorial things you can do. Like, there's the earlier one, which is like kind of what you seem to be going for, like a broader one, and then there's a more specific. Like, there's like the oh hey, I think you should add in a villain. Do the tuning exams, add a villain. Okay, Orochimaru comes in. type of editing, and then there's the editing like he sends more of a later draft. You're like, oh, you should tweak this, and it's a little bit more specific. In this case, it's the final draft is already done, so like you can do a more specific one.
But again, when we were saying this, we were putting ourselves back in time. So like when the Akatsuki Crush arc, yeah. So like when the Akatsuki Crush arc was coming out, so the Pain arc hadn't even started coming out yet. Kishimoto was just preparing in advance, giving the ideas to the editors. The editors would then help tweak the story in advance. So this is
I just don't think
I would do.
I mean, yeah, it's fine, but since the story is done, I personally would go for the after the fact version.
I don't think since it's done, you should do that. Since it's done is irrelevant, in my opinion. It's relevant for rewrites, but irrelevant. Or I mean, it's relevant for what ifs, but irrelevant for rewrites.
I don't think so, because like, again, I know you acknowledge that you'll have to change later parts of the story, but since you're never going to do them, it's just not satisfying. That's what I'm getting at. And like you said, it's not for you, it's for the audience. And so you want your audience to be satisfied. So you should do that.
In this case, I feel like they could also add in the details for later on if they feel like they need it anyways.
It's not, then you're not rewriting it for the audience. You're making them rewrite it for you.
Well, but again, I'm giving them all the keys for them to do so naturally and easily without even realizing they're doing it.
Nah, not if they need to change like the war. Can I give them the key at that point? You're telling them like,
okay,
here, good luck.
What about this? What if I say the third hostage situation? Insert your favorite character. There you go. I made it more specific, and it still fits in the line of everyone has their own preference. They could just do it that way.
Well, that's not gonna work because
I know it's not gonna work.
Jiraiya and he's dead.
Edo Tensei.
See, but then it's gonna get too wacky and weird.
I know. Then you could also say
you shouldn't do that. You should specify. In that case, you should say like, Inoichi and Shikaku or whoever you want to be there is gonna show up. Or you give them, like, for example,
yourself into a corner.
You say, okay, first, the other hostage situation. Okay, Hinata's one of them. That's a given. And then you say, either Hinata, or either Hinata again, either Sakura or Neji. And you give a reason for how they both get there and a reason for why you like it. And then the reader could pick, okay, well, I like this one better. But, like, you gotta, like, narrow it down, not just say anyone.
But again, that's eliminating other possibilities that I haven't thought of. Like, again, we've discussed in the past, like, what if Gaara was in
I get that, but Oodie, if you didn't think of it, it's not your rewrite. Like, if you didn't think of it and nobody gave it to you, it's not your rewrite.
No, because the idea, it would still be mine.
Okay, but, like, for example, imagine Kishimoto writes a story when he just says, like, two people... hostage situation. Not gonna tell you who. Oh man, a character got really mad about it. Not gonna tell you who. And then he fought another character. Not gonna tell you who. I don't even know why they're fighting for that matter. You'll be like, what? You want to know who?
Listen, I don't need the characters in a story to be named. I need to know why they do what they do. I need the
perfect... Oh, really? You need to know why they do what they do? Okay, so tell me why the two characters got in the hostage situation. Why do they do that? How do they get there? Why? Why were they there?
I'm not re-explaining the hostage situation.
If you don't tell me, but that's the point.
But I already did.
You need to know why.
But you do know why.
Yeah. Why?
You already know.
I have to fill in the gap myself. I have to fill in the gap myself, right?
No, you already know. I already gave you this part.
Yeah, I vaguely remember it, just completely going against what happened. I mean, which is fair, it's a rewrite, but you're allowed to do that. It just doesn't really fit the point to me. But
freaking biased against mine. No, the point here is if I give
because if Shikaku and Inoichi just decide to not trust Naruto out of nowhere, it kind of undermines the trust that the villagers gained for Naruto. So why are they there?
But the concept is the hard part. You can plug in the details. You can plug in Gara the same way you can plug in Neji. I don't have to spoon feed you that part.
I think you should. I mean, it's just we're never going to agree on this. I think you should. Like, I'm not saying you need to have like an anime episode with voice acting and music on this, but I think you should have a pretty complete rewrite. Like, if you're like, not to say like your first draft needs to be a final draft, but like if you're gonna heavily promote a rewrite, I mean, like I said, if you just acknowledge it as like, oh, this is just my early stage, I haven't gotten to the final draft, whatever. But like, it's different when you're like, oh, I don't need to do that. I don't know. I think it's just the way you word it more than anything.
I agree that we're never going to agree because for me, the details don't matter. It doesn't matter what color this piece is. What matters is the shape. That's all that matters.
But I think the color does matter because if the color is white, it doesn't look like it fits.
It's not about how something's executed, it's about what happens.
It is about how it's executed, though, because if you're reading a story, you do care about the execution. The same's going to apply for your rewrites. I care about the execution. If there is no execution, I will never call it a great rewrite.
No, but here's the thing. It would be an objectively good story because screenwriting is objective, but it'd be bad. I mean, it'd be no, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. It'd be good. It'd be good objectively screenwriting. You wouldn't like it, is what I meant. If there's bad execution,
I don't think it is objectively good. I mean,
that's why you would execute it however way that you
dude,
would like it.
If you just like wrote out a draft, like a 24 bullet point saying what the beat was in like a sentence describing what will happen, I'm not going to call that a good story.
Kamui, here's the point though. Just in the same way that I was saying earlier that like if I gave a script to 2 different editors, they would produce 2 different videos. If you took this idea, you would write this idea the way that you think is best. I wouldn't write it in the same way, even though I would write it in the way that I think is best. Our execution would be different. I would still probably
want to see how you would write it. That's the point. You're rewriting it.
But then it's a worse version for you. Because I can never write it in your perfect way.
That's not necessarily true. Some people who, for example, Camp doesn't claim to be like a writing expert, as far as I'm aware. And so, for example, she gives stories to Hot Boy because she thinks Hot Boy will write it better than she will. That's why she doesn't do it. Besides maybe being lazy.
Because Hot Boy knows how to put in the puzzle pieces.
He also knows how to do the details. That's why she doesn't ask him, just give me puzzle pieces. Like, she gives him the idea. He does the puzzle pieces and the details. He doesn't ask him to, here's the idea, give me puzzle pieces. Now I'll put in the details. He doesn't think that's going to be better. She knows that he'll just write. It's not different.
It's not a rewrite.
Okay, the point.
It's not meant to be edited.
Even then, though, it doesn't matter
as well.
But even then, though, the point is, for just as you mentioned, sometimes I give you an idea that you like better than your own.
Exactly.
Sometimes vice versa. You give me an idea I didn't think of that I like better. Well, if I do it myself, I will never get the chance to have your detail that I might like better than my own. But Oodie, here's the thing. The best way to do it is to give your complete details. And then I, the viewer, if I think something's better, I will rewrite your rewrite. I'll take the good I like and change the bad I don't like. And then we have a complete version. And the same vice versa can apply. I give you something, but if it's better to have the full detail, and then I could rewrite the rewrite. That's just going to be the better way to do it.
But I disagree because, again, let's say that this color piece, I write it and I final draft it. This is the color piece. You think it should be this shade of green, whereas I think it should be this shade of green. Well, if I already have it this shade of green, it's going to be harder for you to get to this shade of green than if it was just white. Just clear. Just the shape. If it's just the shape, you're able to come to your own version of it way easier.
No, I can just do that anyway. If I hate all of it, I'll just do that anyway.
Well, but hang on.
If I like
because you'll get hung up on the details. So let's say I was adamant that it had to be Sakura that steps in. Well, if you might not, in this case, even conceptualize the idea of putting in Gaara or Neji over Sakura. You might be thinking, okay, it has to be Sakura. So working with the fact that it has to be Sakura, even though it's not what you would want actually, you'd be like, okay, well, what if Sakura did this instead?
So that's where we get into two different versions. There's the version where I say, okay, like if I'm doing it for you or if I'm doing it for me. If I'm doing it for you, I say, hey, this is how I would tweak yours, running with the main points you have. If it's for me, like I'm like, oh, I don't like it. I want to do this for me. I would be like, yeah, I don't like Sakura. I'm gonna put in Gaara, and I'm gonna. But like, and yes, I get it. If you never wrote it, I could have done that anyway. But what if later in the story, independent of Gaara versus Sakura, there's just an idea you have in there that I really like, but it's specific enough that it wasn't in your grander bullet points. And I'm like, I want to apply that Sakura thing to Gaara. Well, I can because I got to see the complete thing you had. First of all, I think you're underestimating me. I can get bogged down in your detail all I want, but if I have the drive to finish the story, I'll get to the rest of it, and I'll do what I want to do.
I see what you're saying, but if there's a specific detail that you like that you would choose,
also,
then it wouldn't be this. It would be the shape.
Also, Oodie, why don't you just do this? You give the bullet point, send it to me or whoever, and then finish out your idea while I work on mine, and then you give the whole one, after I've already done mine.
I mean, I can do that. I mean, you say that like I should have thought about that. Okay. That said, I'm not going to do that with this Attack on Titan one because I want you to just see the final draft. Because I'm just, as a test, I'm just curious how it's going to go.
Okay.
Okay. By the way, I've been looking at this for so long. Doesn't this look like a pixelated running man?
Yeah, so that looks like a human, like a Minecraft guy or something.
I know. I was thinking like Five Nights at Freddy's 8-bit characters or whatever. I'm so glad you were like, oh, I see it. No, you were already thinking it as well.
You know what you should do? Try to cut that out and put it on Kawaki's shoe.
No, we are done with this stupid picture.
Oh, we never even did that on the pod. We can at least show people today.
No, we'll do that another night. Because we want to get Cam's and Trippy's reaction to that too. Immortal, what do you think about that?
I don't think he's been listening this entire time, but...
Alright, well, I guess back to this, considering we're still on, what, page 2?
We got to any video.
So that is the complete antithesis to what I'm planning to do with the Attack on Titan rewrite I was talking about with the ELDIANS/MARLEYans at the campfire, because I'm going to literally turn it into my own final product version of the episode as an alternate version, so you can literally just compare the two side by side, back to back, with absolutely no room to change anything at all, because it's the final draft version with the video already made / produced at that point. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. There's absolutely no room to change anything at all at this point.
I disagree. There is room to change it. I just have to watch and say what I want to change. Like, why would there be no room to change it? You're literally doing it on a final draft version of a story. If you can do it, why can't we?
That's like, no, because that's like retroactively saying, Kishimoto, oh, this is how you should rewrite the pain arc right now. That's not going to change the canon of Naruto. Even if he did it, that'd be an alternate version. That'd be an alternate universe.
Okay. Sure. He's not going to do it.
Assuming he
Nobody
did do
said
it.
he would.
Assuming he did do it. That's how the audience would see it. They wouldn't see it as canon. They would see it as an alternate universe version, regardless if Kishimoto says it's canon.
Okay, that's fine, but like, that's just a weird fake scenario. It's like, what?
Okay.
The point is,
this is a
you
weird fake scenario that we're freaking artificially turning real because we are weird.
But the point is, if you do a rewrite, I can just rewrite your rewrite if I feel necessary.
But that'd be a different rewrite at that point. That's not my rewrite. That's your rewrite.
I know it wouldn't be your rewrite anymore. I never said it would be. I'm saying how I would change it
Exactly.
because that's now my rewrite of your rewrite. But there is a room to do that. I would just do it.
The thing is, if you change the shape of the color, the shape of the piece, it's not mine and it's not the original. But if you just change the details inside, that's fine. But you don't have to change them if they aren't there in the first place, but they're meant to be filled in.
No, what I'm saying, okay, but what I'm saying is you give details. If all I'm doing is changing the details, then I'm, in this analogy, I'm not changing the shape. I'm just changing the color because I think, oh, this color would be a little bit better or whatever. I can still do that. There's nothing stops me. I just have to know what I want to do.
So that would still be my rewrite, but it's just your tweaked version of it. But in this case, the details aren't
and
that
that's what
big.
I'm saying.
Like, the details would be, oh, I don't think Naruto would say that. He would actually say that line like this. So that would be the execution, the details. Or like, oh, I wouldn't choose that song.
Saying.
I would choose this song.
Yeah, and so like what I'm saying is when you do this Attack on Titan one, there's still room for me to do that if I so choose.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's what I'm saying. You can do it. It's fine. It's, like, I want to see your shape, and then like essentially what I'm saying is sometimes I might criticize your shape initially, like for example with the Naruto one. Okay, I'm criticizing it. However, if you propose to me a final draft version, I'm totally okay with saying, okay, I will roll with it. How can I make yours better in my eyes without changing the shape? Like, I'll keep your shape what it is, but I'll change your details or something. Like, I'm fine with just working under the premise, and I'm also fine with adjusting the entire shape.
This is my shape,
but
by the way. Since you said you wanted to see it. That's my shape.
You definitely wouldn't like that shape because the muscles are too big for you.
I wouldn't like that shape. No, my shape would be...
Like it's just a stick figure.
Nah.
The muscle will actually invert.
Well, actually, this shape down here is a little skinny. I'd probably like... Oh, that doesn't change that. Okay,
Do you want Obito's Popeye arms? His forearms, I mean.
There, that's a decent shape. Well, actually, no, it's not. It looks terrible, but... We're done with the pieces shape right there. Okay. Alright. Did I just accidentally? I did. Okay. I'm kinda doing it out of a passion / a labor of love, but also a test. Because you and Kamui have expressed the sentiment that you want this type of approach. Or at least Kamui wants specifically this, and you agree that you want more than the building block idea approach. So I'm gonna make this just to see if you two are able to reciprocate this in a more accurate / genuine / fair way, regardless if you look at it as better, worse, good, bad, etc.
I definitely will. Like, I'm gonna... It's gonna go better. Yeah. I'm telling you right now, the more you give me, the better it's gonna go.
So also, I'm telling you right now, it's not the fact that you think the rewrite is bad or whatever for the pain arc or whatever. I don't care that you don't like it. I care about how it's approached, which is way, way more interesting. That's the whole reason I'm doing this. So I'm completely okay if you just don't like this Attack on Titan rewrite, because that's not what I'm going for. I'm going to see the change in how you get to liking it or not liking it. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, comparing it to a critique isn't a good idea when critiques are inherently a negative. Like, my favorite scene in all of Naruto is the Naruto vs. Sasuke Part 1 fight, and I'm just as likely to think of a rewrite for that as I am for the scene I dislike the most in Platinum End, the worst anime. Actually, I would say I'm more likely to find a rewrite for Naruto Part 1 because I like that more, so I'm thinking about it more. So the more I like a scene, the more likely I am to rewrite it, I would think.
I don't know about...
Well, the more I think about a scene, at least.
I feel like, at least for me, the more I like a series, the more likely I am to think about a rewrite for the series, but not necessarily a rewrite for the scene I already, think is super good.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Okay. The scene did what it needed to do, it just didn't go above and beyond. I wasn't blown away more than any other episode, or wowed by what was happening. The scene, in a screenwriting sense, was fine. I just think the storytelling of that part could be touched up on, but again, the scene did everything it was supposed to, exactly all of what it should have done. If it didn't, I would be critiquing that. That scene didn't need to do anything more, but it would have been nice if it had. Also, I think we talked about it, but in an interview, Isayama said the concept of the series was meant to be as simple as possible on purpose. This is in reference to, when I say the scene, I'm referencing like the campfire scene, like that whole episode.
Yeah.
This Night of the End, season 4, episode 9. Yeah. Okay.
I think also I will say I think Cam just got like offended when you said it was irresponsible.
Yeah,
Even
that's
I
why
knew what
I
you were
was
saying.
explaining what it meant. Like, I explained it in a way that I'm not allowed to say the word here on this podcast, but I'll tell you later. I guess I can. It's like I consider it disrespectful if it's a complex topic that the author doesn't give the respect to flesh it out properly or develop it the way that it deserves, the nuance that it deserves. Like if I made a story that included the R word, first of all, it'd be disrespectful for me to do that because I don't think I could do that justice. I don't think I could write that in a way that gives it what it needs, because I think you would agree that that'd be such a serious thing that it'd be difficult to even go there in the first place. Whereas genocide, it's such a huge, ginormous, big idea that to not do it justice is an injustice. So that's what I meant when I said that. I'm not saying.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why you would say that. Yeah.
Yeah, like a more, I guess a different example would be like drugs. People get very touchy or personal on that because it's something that relates to people in a very serious way. If I did a story about that and I just didn't do it right, if I didn't do the research to do it properly, it's disrespectful to anyone that could have related with that story or anyone who could have taken away something from that story. In fact, it's disrespectful to anyone that could have, and it's irresponsible to anyone that could have taken something away but didn't.
I don't know if I would use disrespectful or irresponsible. I would just say it's like unfortunate. I guess it's untapped potential. It's just wasted potential. It's like, oh, it's like you could say maybe even disappointing. I don't know, but irresponsible. Like it's just oh, that's it had so much potential. I mean,
unfortunate.
I mean, to be fair,
and disappointing.
I don't know.
Sounds like there's two possibilities. If you say unfortunate or disappointing, it sounds like the worst option is that you're blaming the reader for not taking it away. The second option is that it was inevitable, that the reader was never going to take that away from the story, rather than it's the author's fault for not writing it in a way that they should.
Well, no, I would just say it's unfortunate that the author didn't do it, or it's disappointing that the author didn't do it. I don't know.
I mean, but if they could have, then I would consider it irresponsible. Which they could have. I don't think there's anything stopping Isayama from doing the research to do it justice.
I mean, I don't know if he really lacked research in this case. I just think he just
didn't care.
Kept it pretty simple. Yeah, I think it was just like a simple matter of like to a large extent, I just think it was meant to be simple. It was just okay. Most people know genocide is bad. EREN's like, because in a sense, it's like you could think of it like, for example, everyone knows genocide is bad, but yeah, a lot of people do it.
Exactly.
It should be obvious, and you have like people give their reasons, but at the end of the day, it's like it's obvious. It's bad. Like the side that would need explanation is the side doing it, not the side who's going against it, because it's obvious. Of course, like we know it's bad.
But
we need to know why people are trying to do it.
If I include such a sensitive subject like the R word or drugs or the death of a child, something that will absolutely emotionally resonate with someone, then if I do it in a distasteful way, as an author, I think that's the worst thing anyone could ever do. It's
Sure, but
infinitely
I
better
wouldn't say
to
it was
never
done in
have
a
included it
distasteful
at all.
way in Attack on Titan. I don't think it was genocide was discussed in a distasteful way.
Well, maybe distasteful isn't the proper word, but
At least in that context. Like,
then
yeah, I think if you
ineffective, inefficient. They just could have done more. They didn't flesh it out. It's just not developed enough. It's too simple.
I don't think inefficient is the right word in that case. It's just yeah, they could have done more. It's not that deep. It's shallow. You can say shallow because it's not that deep.
I wouldn't say could. I would say should. They should have done more. But
I mean, that's fine. Like at the end, that's
Cam
opinion. But
was saying actually in an interview, Isayama said towards the end he recognized that it was starting to get too complex, and he was like resonating with EREN or something, so he had to start pulling it back to become more simple. So it's possible that he introduced the genocide theme planning to do something with it, but then it sort of turned into a dropped concept. The problem with, and I can't fault the author for that. I don't fault the author for that. But I will still critique the story if that's the case, because it was introduced in the story. It's already out there. It's already produced.
You just wouldn't introduce it to begin with, like,
yeah. So
or
the
you would
problem is,
go all the way with it.
The moment he decided to introduce it, as the author of the story, he no longer had the luxury to take it back, because he interprets it the same way that we do. He's lost that right as the author once it's already out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's.
Although, I mean, he still uses it. It's just not that deep.
Yeah. Well, again, like, it's just the idea of going from a complex idea to a simple idea when you shouldn't.
It makes me wonder, though, in that case, was he just not going to do the rumbling at all, or would he just, like, change the discussion around it?
That's interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
Because, like, the rumbling is kind of, I mean, I guess, depends on how early he said that, because the rumbling is already discussed in season 4, like, very early. Even season 3 discusses it, I think. Maybe? I don't know.
The way they
Like at the end with the Grisha flashback? I don't remember.
I mean,
but
I think it'd be really easy to just change it to where EREN isn't the one actively there doing it. He would just be in parody while the rumbling happens. It could be like essentially pure Titans at that point.
who would do it? Just like, oh, like the pure Titans, like just on their own doing it.
Yeah.
Like EREN doesn't choose to do it, but the Wall Titans just like go against them.
Like, EREN's not actively doing it. Like, he chooses to break the walls to start the rumbling, but then the Attack Titans already know what to do. That's how I would imagine he would go about it. I don't know.
I think that no, I think he's still controlling them because that's why they stop. Like when Zeke's head's cut off, like they lose the control over them, so they don't.
But again, I would say it's like a passive control. Like he gave them he had awoken them, and then from there they would continue on until that connection's disabled or whatever. It's kind of similar to if I plug a vacuum cleaner into the wall. I don't have to hold that plug into the wall. It's just plugged in. The vacuum's gonna run regardless if I like go to sleep or not. It's just gonna keep going.
Yeah.
But if someone else unplugs the vacuum, then the vacuum's gonna stop. That's how I would see that.
Yeah, that could be how it's working. But it could also just be like they're being controlled, and then once you stop, they stop. I mean, granted, though, I guess for the Wall Titans, they kind of like just don't do anything when they're not being controlled.
Yeah.
Unlike a pure Titan where they go around eating people, the Wall Titans just don't do anything.
I would imagine they would just stomp. You could also
I guess,
say,
well, their command before was be a wall, so.
yeah, exactly. Like maybe they just have something from Karl Fritz, or maybe like Karl Fritz wasn't bluffing. Like, hey, if you attack us, the rumbling's gonna happen, and so it's actually Karl Fritz's will rather than Eren's will. Eren just activated Karl Fritz's will in them.
That would be really funny, but that's not what's implied, but that would be
No,
really
I know
funny.
you'd have to change it, but you know.
Like, he just wasn't bluffing. That could have been an interesting one though. It's like Eren activates it and then he changes his mind, but they keep going.
I think I might like that more actually.
Yeah,
I'd
so
have
like
to think
Eren
about it.
actually helps them. Like, he's the one who helps fight stop the rumbling because like they were wrong. Karl Fritz was like, there he is.
God. That'd be funny. Well, I think that especially goes along with the fact that everyone has their own different version of history in Attack on Titan. So, like, we don't know what actually happened in history. Or at least that's how Season 4 was explained to me at the very beginning.
Yeah, the only thing about that though was the Kings of the Walls got the history of Karl Fritz. Like they know the full history
Well,
through the
they
memories.
think they know it.
I
What
mean,
if Karl Fritz knew that he would have these memories be remembered, so he intentionally sabotaged the memories by thinking of things that what he was lying to himself on purpose?
yeah, he actually like says out loud lies so that they'll see those memories of him lying.
Yeah, it's like imagine if Hinata was thinking, actually, I hate Naruto, which he doesn't.
Yeah. Just so Naruto will see the memories.
The conniving little sinister. Okay.
I mean, there's definitely a way we could write it in though, so that it like works.
Yeah. Ari Shikage. So gotta be at 5 SP. I'ma hit the hay. See you later. Bye, Ari Shikage. He's so lost, by the way.
Well, hopefully he gets found.
Did you know Peter Griffin's in Fortnite?
No, but that's funny.
I wouldn't have known either if not for being told. Is actually
Yeah,
it is
same.
pretty funny. Like they included a lot of the memes. Like the bird is the word is one of the emotes or whatever when he does the song.
No.
And my favorite part is when you like take him out or whatever. He does the meme to where he like holds his knee when he's sitting down.
Oh,
Yes,
that's funny.
that is so funny. I was dying laughing when I saw a video of that.
That's good. They have him go. Ah.
Yes. That's by far my favorite part. Another thing is because like they have like flying vehicles in the game for every character or whatever. Peter's flying vehicle is like the Peter copter, if you remember that.
Yes.
Yes. It's so much. And I think he has like Brian as his backpack. I don't know. But anyways.
None of his companion, but his backpack. It would be funny if like Stewie's the weapon. He just like Stewie's the weapon who holds a weapon.
And they should have gave him like Stewie's laser blaster or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be good.
Like Stewie just shoots an insult at someone and like the words hit them.
Okay.
I don't want to say what Quagmire's weapon would be.
Alright, back to the rewrite. So it's like, how do you want me to work with this if you don't break it down? Give me the beats of the story, and we can flesh it out later, but let's make a solid foundation first. This is an interesting idea, because it's almost like you run with it as if the foundation is so solid that we don't even have to talk about it. Like, it's already there to where it's like an unspeakable thing to where you just move on. Almost.
Well, I agree with what you're saying. Let's get a solid foundation first and then get to the details. I agree with that. But in the case of like, sometimes I'm like, it's tough. For example, your pain rewrite with the Naruto Cycle of Hatred speech stuff. It was one of those ones where I was like, it's tough for me to say. Hearing that foundation, I need to see your details for me to really judge it from here. It's a maybe. I need to see the details before I really know. The second one, I was like, okay, you have an idea that can work. Let's just see the rest of it. And then the third one, I didn't like the foundation. I just didn't like it.
I feel like by that point you were just fed up with it, or feeding off of Cam's energy, who was fed up with it. Like if I presented the third one
I just didn't
first,
like that one.
it might be different.
No, I didn't like that one.
You say so. But again, it's not like we were arguing, oh, there should be 3 people or 4 people in this hostage situation. Oh, instead of Hanzo's hostage situation, it should have been like Donzo's hostage situation. We weren't arguing the foundation, because I wouldn't consider who is in the situation as the foundation. I would consider that the details. So it doesn't matter whether it's Gaara or whether it's Neji.
I think that's a mid-tier detail. Like it's something.
Yeah.
If we're gonna give it 3 tiers of detail, the outermost is hostage situation. Middle is who and why they're there, and then the detail. I guess the middle is who, and the most narrow is like why are they there, how did they get into the situation, and so on. How does it play out?
Well, the way I would write it, and as an editor, is I would just write it as character 1 and character 2, or hostage 1 and hostage 2. I wouldn't even want to write a possibility of who the characters could be. I would let Kishimoto do the best fit, because at that point it's just a plug and place.
I mean, I get that when Kishimoto is involved. He's not involved here though, so
whatever.
Unless you're trying to say I'm Kishimoto, I'll take it.
I'll take it. I will also quickly note that I actually do the details part disconnected entirely as a completely separate process. Sometimes I'll do this, or I was like, all right, here's a cool idea. Here's hostage 1, here's hostage 2. Or I'll be like, a protagonist does this. But like, there's other times where I just think of a really cool thing, but I don't have a specific foundation for it. So I'll just write it in like a bank of notes of cool ideas. I'm like, here's a cool quote to where the character says, you think I'm heartless? Well, actually, I have 2 hearts, or something like that. But I'm like, I don't know who says this. I don't know when they say it. I don't know what story this is even in, which season, which series. It's just a cool idea, and I'll just have this for later. So that later on, when I do the foundation of a specific story for a specific part, specific idea, specific scene, specific character, I can go to this list of ideas. I'm like, all right, copy paste which of these ideas work for this specific scene. Because at that point, I have both parts done. I'm just putting 2 and 2 together.
You just gave me a silly idea. So imagine, Choji or Kakashi tells Kakuzu he's heartless, and he's like, heartless, you say? Well, actually, and then he opens out like his hearts. He's like, I have 5 of those.
Exactly. Like, if I had,
that's better for a villain. I'd be like, that's a good villain one.
You essentially just did my process. That is how I go about writing my stories. Literally what you just did. I just gave you 2 and 2, and you just put them together.
Well, I feel like you set that one randomly. It just happened to work because I thought Kakuzu. It was like,
exactly. That's how it is, though. Is that I have a list of ideas, and one of the ideas just so happened to work for any specific scene that I look at. Because I just have so many ideas. Like, it's just like a word bank. You just go to the bank, you're like, all right, go down the list. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. Oh, that coincidentally just so happens to fit pretty much perfectly. Like in this case, it is just pretty much perfectly. Instead of 2 hearts, it is the 5 hearts. But you tweak that one idea.
Yeah.
The idea is already in place. You just get the details. There you go. Perfect.
Yeah, that's how it conveniently worked out. But
exactly. All right. Continuing on. Oh god, it's long. It's like I want them to get to the point. If you're telling me the story of Naruto, I don't want to hear a paragraph of what he does when he wakes up in the morning. I want to get the basic idea of what Naruto wants and needs are, etc. Like, obviously...
Well, if that's a main part of your rewrite, I mean, it's a part of your rewrite.
No, because you don't want to get bogged down in the details, because what he does in the morning doesn't matter for the story. That's not the story.
Why did you put in the rewrite?
What? No, that's what I'm saying. is that I don't want that.
But if it's in your rewrite...
No, I'm saying it's not in my rewrite. I wouldn't want it in my rewrite, is what I'm saying. Because it's irrelevant.
But in a complete rewrite,
don't
like...
matter.
Yeah, well, yeah, but that is... I mean, I get what you're saying, but, like, if you hypothetically were rewriting it, and you added in that scene, I would want to see it.
No, but, like, this is what I'm... Okay, for example, with this thing, it's like...
But you're saying you wouldn't add that scene in there to begin with. No, of course not.
Okay, this is a hyperbole. Like, for the pain rewrite, it's like, okay, would you include Naruto sighing at 6 minutes and 44 seconds? Like, these are nitty-gritty details that don't influence or change anything at all in terms of the idea. Like, whether...
Only in a final product, like...
Yeah.
You know, like, really final product would I include sighing.
Like, whether the cut is a close-up on Naruto's eye or his mouth when he said something, I don't care. That doesn't change.
Yeah, I don't need that either. I don't need that much detail. But, like, you know I'm not going to be dogging you about that. Like, that's not what I'm referring to.
Okay, with that being said, honestly, I might get slightly a little bit lazy with the visuals of the edit of this final episode. As long as it's, like, a general idea, that's fine.
I'm not too worried about it. You're going above and beyond what I even asked for anyway, so...
Exactly, yeah. The music, that's completely fair to critique, but the visuals, give me a break. I keep in mind, I also only have certain resources to work with. I'm not a $1 billion studio reanimating this episode. Like, I can only work with
I'm just saying, if you either play the Attack on Titan theme the entire time, or From You 2,000 Years Ago, specifically the best part over and over again, like I won't have any complaints about the music.
Okay.
I mean, actually, I have an idea. You could cycle through my favorite three: the Attack on Titan theme, From You 2,000 Years Ago, and then Zeke's plan. Just cycle through those 3, 10 minutes each. And I think the episode will be perfect.
Like I was telling you, 2,000 years, whatever. That song, unironically, is one of the few times I would actually use that song in this scene. So it actually works out perfectly. I'm not even doing this to, like, kiss your boot or whatever the phrase is. Like, it's just coincidentally
kiss your ass, not kiss your boot.
No, there's a foot one in there somewhere. Is kiss your boot lick the boot?
Kyra.
Lick the boot.
She seems to know a lot about people being
moving on. I regret this entire analogy in the first place.
Well, anyway.
I'm glad Cam isn't here to never let me hear the end of that one.
Either way, totally put that theme in there. I support it. I'll instantly like your rewrite that much more.
Oh my god. Okay.
If anyone gets hype, you can play the Attack on Titan fight theme. If anyone's thinking of a plan, play Zeke's plan.
I mean, Zeke isn't even in this, so makes no sense.
It doesn't matter. It plays when other people have plans too.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, sometimes the Attack on Titan theme plays when they aren't even attacking Titans.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyone attacks anyone. If Annie attacks Mikasa or whatever, play this theme.
Well, in the episode, John attacks Reiner. That's still in the rewrite because I don't want to change. I'm not making a new story.
You can have it go. It's
not gonna fit at all.
Yeah, I know. It would be so out of place, but it would be so hype.
You know what? I feel like I should just pull up the editor for whenever I finish it and just change it out just to laugh at it with you.
Just like as a little meme, yeah. Like have the actual one and then have like the edited version with the goofy like add-ins. It'll be funny.
I asked the voice actor for 2 different versions, the normal version and then the version where he's screaming his lungs out during that music.
It would be funny. I support it. All of these things we're coming out with.
Okay. Let's try and blitz through these next, like, 3 pages.
Yeah, so we can finally get to one of the reactions.
To be fair, it hasn't even been that long. It's only 2 hours in. But we did say we only wanted to go for 3 hours anyways.
Well, yeah, we'll find out.
Yeah. Okay. So I have the centric focus on screenwriting, but I think that's the disconnect. Screenwriting structure literally separates and disconnects a story into different phases or stages compared to something like a novel where the structure doesn't really matter because it's entirely about the execution. You could argue that's a little disingenuous because obviously novels still follow structure and like that still matters. And it's not entirely about the execution. You still need a solid foundation, for example. But like, for example, if Naruto was a novel, you would want the scene of the paragraph of him waking up in the morning, you would want that to be worded elegantly.
Yeah, with a lot of details.
Yeah, like that's not taking anything away from the novel, whereas it absolutely takes away from the screenwriting. Okay.
Unless it's a story about, I mean, to be fair, Naruto does have a canon scene of Shikamaru doing just that. Just staring at an alarm clock.
Okay, I was thinking of like the Naruto expired milk episode. Like, I'm not thinking of like some dramatic scene here.
I mean, you could add one in.
Oh god. Anyway, so it is the polar opposites in regards to those two mediums. I just can't focus on polishing something or even bother to start attempting until the rough outline is solid. So, like, it's fine if you want to say the details, and I'm not really going to argue with you on the details, but I'm not even going to begin doing the details until I feel it's solid.
That's fine.
Yeah, okay. Because that's what I really care about. In the same way that fighting is spectacle, which is cool, but not something to care about. Shout out ATG. Or how you were saying you didn't care about the details that are changed. I don't care about any of the specific details. Especially as an editor, I'm approaching this with trying to make a solid foundation or strong core of the story, knowing it's up to the novelist to execute. I'm just giving them.
Yeah, but just in this case, essentially, I agree with what you're saying. I just want you to be the novelist since, you know, we don't have Kishimoto. It's just like, I just want to see your details too. Yeah. I want to see all of it.
So, for example, I would expect that with, like, Hot Boy. Well, this is actually exactly the thing. I was giving Hot Boy the building blocks of the story, but not the details. I wanted Hot Boy to fill in those details. I was giving him the shape and wanting him to fill out the details. He didn't want to do that because he wanted to build the shape himself. That's what he was saying.
No, yeah, he hated the you know.
I mean, like, I don't think he wanted to do any type of shape that I was talking about.
Yeah, he didn't like this anything about what you were proposing.
Okay. Yeah, so in that case, Cam was expecting the final draft, so she was expecting him to be the novelist. But she was also expecting him to be the screenwriter that does the first part as well.
Yeah.
To be fair, Cam
just gave him an idea.
The thing with fanfic is the shape doesn't matter because it's more focused on the details anyways. Like, Cam's not going for a good story. She's going for a story that she likes. And for the fanfic reasons that we don't need to get into.
Yeah. The ones that I don't want.
Yeah, the ones where it's specifically about the execution, if you catch me.
Yeah, the details.
Okay. I'm just giving them the platform to jump off of, and I want that platform to be as sturdy as possible. They can do their job easier of actually writing to the final draft if I do my job of making sure they have an easy and simple path to follow to get there.
So I was about to reference the blind man walking up the cliff thing when you got into platforms that jump off.
Oh my gosh, yeah. This is funny. I will say, if someone approaches me with a rewrite, this is how I would see it. I'd be like, oh, that's an interesting idea. Okay, let's focus on the idea. Like, I'm not worried about the details. I'm focused on the idea, why it matters, the purpose, etc., etc. So, like, I'm the polar opposite of how you're approaching it, essentially.
Well, no, it's not that. I care about both.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
I feel like, again, like,
in the case of some of them, it got to a point where I needed the details to really comment further.
Okay. Yeah, because going with this analogy, I want to build the platform. You're the one that wants me to jump off of the platform. You want me to build it and then jump off of it. I just want to build it. But I'm building it so anyone can jump off of it in any way that they want. But the platform is sturdy, so they can flop off of it, but that's going to be perfect for them because they're going to land just safe because it's a sturdy platform.
Well, we don't know what lies beneath, but
in this case, it's mat. I'm building the mat too. There you go. Falling in a pool of water.
Just a mat? How high are we falling off of? We really got a mat to fall on.
It's a sturdy platform. The point is they can jump off it however they want. Doesn't matter what happens next.
Don't worry about where we're landing, dude.
Okay. Because if you have a strong start, then the rest of it, which is the majority, comes much easier because it's just simpler. It's like fueling up before a workout. You want to have a solid beginning because the beginning directly affects the middle and end. So if you have a bad start or foundation, then it's just going to be an uphill battle the entire way. Even with proper execution, you're going to have a rough time. Much more tough than if you just had it proper to begin with, and all the small details or dialogue or whatever that don't really matter make up most of the story, but that can be decided last. It's the key actions that drive a story forward that you have to nail first. So when you think of a workout analogy, because that relates to you, like, you don't want to go into a workout having just eaten like a bag of chocolate or something.
I feel like you could have picked a better analogy in the sense of like running a race. Like, you didn't want to like if you I guess if you it doesn't really matter if your running form is perfect. If your approach to the 800-meter dash is just awful, you start really slow or way too fast, and it's just a bad uphill battle for the rest of the race now. It's how I would have approached it, but
actually,
I get your point.
The way I'm thinking of it is I'm focused on the shoes. I'm focused on getting to the race. I'm focused on the start point and the end point. But you're focused on the actual running. The pose, the form, how long it takes, whatever. You're focused on the part where they're actually running, whereas I'm focused on, how can I say this in a way? The concept, the idea of the run. I'm focused on the race. You're focused on racing.
I mean, we don't really need to get too specific on this, but I just never mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not really interested in arguing semantics over what a character would say specifically or any nitty-gritty like that, because that just comes down to the individual's artistic style and preference anyways, as opposed to the bigger picture screenwriting structure, which is much more objective. Another example using this concept would be gaming. Alright, another example! Let's see this one! Before you go in and add each blade of grass, you want to make sure the level design fits. You don't need to focus on the textures or compositing or colors until after you make the structure of the map that feels good. I feel like this is a good analogy. Like, when you see a game that's being currently worked on, it's all gray because they haven't added the textures yet, but they build the level first.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of just general art crafting. When Kishimoto does a manga panel that includes grass, he doesn't start with the blades of grass. He starts by putting the building's going to go here, the character is going to be here, and so on. He kind of gets a sense of where they're going to go before he starts drawing the individual hair strands.
Yeah. So I'm giving them everything they need. I'm giving them the base default. They can then choose whatever textures that they like the most, which is what people do anyways. Like, people that play, again, we were talking about Call of Duty Zombies earlier. People will mod in their own textures for the guns or zombies, or even the textures like the ground or the railing or the teleporters or whatever. they'll put in their own textures because they just prefer those more. So yeah.
Yeah.
At that point, it's letting them do what they want with it. I think it's fine. Or you don't need to worry.
Yeah, but what
about...
I want is for you to finish it.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, like, if these different versions, if the mods came with the base game, but there was no default vanilla texture, it started as like the gray 0 texture, and you had to choose which texture, or even you had to apply your texture from any texture across the entire internet. At that point, it's the levels allowing you to choose how you want it to look entirely. But the level, you don't change the level itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we'll finish this really quick. Or you don't need to worry, again with gaming, you don't need to worry about naming specific gear or items or any details like that until the gameplay itself just feels fun to play. Because nobody cares if your armor or sword has a cool sounding name if the game itself isn't fun. Similarly, entirely disconnected from this idea. So, okay, this is what I was talking about earlier.
Well, unless you're ATG.
Yeah. Yeah, this is all what I was saying earlier. Okay. Okay, this goes back to the puzzle. I really like this puzzle analogy here. Honestly, it may be ridiculous, but I write a good amount of my scenes. Okay, and blah 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 blah. Okay. So this is how I was saying earlier, is how like I put 2 and 2 together to where I'll write a structure, and then separately I'll write cool ideas. So then I'll like plug in or copy paste from my idea bank to the structure. So with that context in mind, it really works out and it really works out and keeps me extremely productive, especially when you find a good fit for a puzzle piece within the bound/outline of the puzzle you just made. It's like if you do all the corner/edge pieces first of a puzzle, it can be easier to fit in the middle pieces. And once one piece fits, it can be extremely easy and satisfying to build off of that piece that now fits, because it shows a fit/connection for another piece, and so on and so forth. And then it's easier over time, snowballing into the final product. So for example, with this, if I give you the idea of the pain thing, and it's like, all right, I'm going to make the hostage situation, Hinata's the hostage, someone has to step in for Naruto. Then you could be like, okay, because that's putting the edges and the corners. You could be like, okay, Sakura. That's like putting one piece of the puzzle in. And then I'd be, oh, I like that. And then Sakura, you could do that because she's part of Team 7. Okay, well, I'm snowballing. I'm building off of the puzzle piece that you just fit in because it fits in with the rest of it, because the edge pieces are all there. It's easier because the edge pieces are there, and you can just start plugging in, and the more pieces you plug in, the easier it is to plug in that next piece, because you're just building off of the pieces that are already plugged in. And the foundation's already there with the corners and the edges. So we would just,
I mean, yeah,
like we already naturally did. And with any rewrite, like we did this with the Zabuza rewrite. We did this whenever we were discussing how we would go about implementing Gaara. We were essentially working off of each other's ideas, but we could only do that because we were giving each other's ideas in the first place.
well, that's what I'm saying. I need your ideas, or else it's just mine.
But in this case, that wasn't a rewrite, because the corner or edge pieces is the story as we had it itself already. The story already exists.
It was a rewrite. We were implementing Gaara in an arc where he wasn't there.
We're adding things. And so like you were saying, that's not a rewrite, that's adding. So well, in this case, it's not writing.
Yeah, kind of.
It's not writing.
But then in that case, your pain arc thing wasn't rewriting the third one. It was just adding a hostage situation. Not...
Well, in this case, it's literally changing the third one. So if anything, the first one's the only one that adds.
Okay, if it's changing it by adding Gaara.
Okay, whatever. Okay. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. All right, finishing this off. I think this is the final paragraph.
So it's a rewrite then.
Whatever. No, it's not. Whatever. Doesn't matter. We disagree. It doesn't matter. Disagree and moving on. We agree to disagree. It's like once you start, sometimes it's hard to stop. Once you get the ball rolling, because with this method, sometimes it just clicks. And then a whole new world of possibility opens up that you've never seen before. It's putting 2 and 2 together in the most literal sense. And yeah, that's that.
Why is it